on the mountain. I ain't coming down till morning. I'm going up on the mountain. I ain't coming down.
Hello, and welcome to our very first Goose Chat. We're so glad that you're here and joining us to celebrate Goose Month in December. It's one of our favorite months. Um, my name is Brittany Sweeney, and I'm the Communications Manager for Livestock Conservancy. Here with me today are some special guests. We have Ellie Martin and Jeanette Behringer. Jeanette, do you want to introduce Ellie? And then I'm going to make some shameless plugs about Giving Tuesday.
Yeah, well, I actually have known Ellie through sheep originally, and we started talking about geese, and Ellie will talk more about her farm as we go on with the program. But it's just been a real pleasure working with you, and we're excited about having some of your geese for our upcoming Goose Challenge. And for our first Goose Chat, a lot of people seem to be curious about geese, and so I'm hoping that you can show them the light and convince people why they should keep geese. So welcome, Ellie.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here. Piggybacking on that, if you have a question or a comment for Ellie, please leave it in our Facebook comments, and we'll get to those after a little chat today. Or we can answer them along the way. We'll see how it goes. That's what we did yesterday, and it was a lot of fun. But yes, let us know you're here, what you want to know about geese, because Ellie you have Roman geese and cotton patch geese, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
All right. Two great breeds on our conservation priority list. Jeanette just mentioned our hashtag Goose Challenge, or My Goose's Cook Challenge. That's what it is. So Ellie is awesome and is providing our heritage geese for this. And we are going to be going up to New York to meet Ariane Dagon, a famous chef who's going to be cooking her geese and our heritage breed geese. And we are inviting people to learn how to cook a goose, because not that many people have cooked a goose recently, I don't think.
No.
So if you are interested in that, please go to our website. I'm going to share a link and invite you to participate in that so that you can learn. I'm sorry, Jeanette, I cut you off.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just find that geese scare the crap out of people when it comes to cooking them. And, I'm sure that, you can speak their praises too, but I got to say they aren't called the Prince of Poultry for nothing. It's some of the most delicious meat that you've ever had. And, when I cooked my first goose, it was one of those aha moments, like, why have I not cooked this before? But enough about that for now. Ellie, so tell me, how did you start getting involved with geese?
Well, it's kind of a segue on what you were just saying. My mother had asked me, because she knows I love raising every kind of animal. She asked me if I would raise a Christmas goose for her. And so I said, yeah, of course, I can do that. And without my husband knowing, I got a trio of cotton patch geese. And one of them turned into Christmas dinner, and the other two I kept. And then I decided to get Roman geese because of kind of what I read on the Livestock Conservancy. They're very calm. They're a small breed, perfect for the homestead. I'm not into raising commercially, so they're just sort of really perfect for a small backyard farm.
Mm-hmm. You were mentioning earlier that your sheep actually had something to do with getting geese on the farm. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I raise a few different breeds of sheep. I raise Hog Island and Shetland, and then I have a few little fiber pets that I keep around because I spin wool. And one summer, the summer that my mother asked me to get the geese, I was having a lot of problems with intestinal parasites because it was just raining like every day and our grass was never drying out, and my sheep were getting barber pole worms really bad. Mm-hmm. So one of the things you can do to combat intestinal parasites in sheep is to multi-species graze. And so I thought, well, hey, if I get a bunch of geese, and I rotate them through my sheep pasture, they can be a dead end, a dead end host, or kind of dead end the parasites, because they don't affect geese or other species of non-ruminants. So that's what I did, and I can't tell if it worked, because the next year we had a drought, so I had zero problems with intestinal parasites. But the sheep and the geese get along really well. They don't eat the same kinds of things. Sheep prefer eating, they're called forbs, or to us that's weeds. And the geese prefer to eat grass. So they don't eat the same things. And so if you want to keep geese as little lawnmowers, they work perfectly.
Yeah, when I had geese, we kept them in the front yard, and I didn't have to cut the grass all summer long. It was great.
No, they're great.
Yeah.
Those can be real short.
Yeah, I found the biggest challenge was the dogs, going after the poo. And that was kind of, so we had to manage that. But the geese were very personable. And what do you like about the geese? Like, if somebody's curious about them, what do you tell them about what it's like to keep them?
They're really low maintenance. They're really easy to keep. They're very disease resistant. I've never really had disease in my farm, but I've heard that they don't get sick like chickens might. You always hear about chickens getting respiratory illnesses and things. Geese and waterfowl don't seem to get those, or if they are a carrier, they don't have the symptoms of it. They don't really need a lot of grain to eat. So with like my chickens and my turkeys, they eat so much in feed. Like my feed bill is sky high. But with the geese, as long as they have a good lush pasture, they'll get fat. And then in the winter, I supplement them with vegetables from my garden, or cabbages and kales and like the brassicas that live through the winter. I'll give them those, and then they get some grain if they want to give them a little bit of energy before the breeding season. But otherwise, they're super low maintenance. They can be susceptible to predators, but not as bad as like a chicken, because they're a bigger bird, and so hawks won't mess with them. Maybe if you had a really hungry eagle, I'm sure a really hungry fox would probably try to take one, but they're pretty big and they have these nice bills, so they take a bite out of a fox, I think. And if you lock them up at night in a real secure coop, they're pretty safe. So they're really easy keepers.
Yeah. Have you seen any differences between the two breeds? They're both kind of smallish geese. Are there personality differences, or, what do you find between the two breeds?
So I had the cotton patch first, and the really neat thing about cotton patch is that they're auto-sexing, so the females will be gray and the ganders will be white. So that's really cool for a person who doesn't want to learn how to vent sex geese, which I really don't like doing. And they're supposed to be a little bit bigger. My cotton patch were always smaller, so that might have just been my birds. I think my Romans at least, were calmer and less prone to sort of getting excited about nothing. I have some cotton patch ganders that just kind of freak out about random things. Otherwise, they're both really good weeders. They're lightweight birds, so they won't be like the big dewlap guys in your intro video. And they just sort of eat a lot less. They're both pretty similar.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about noise? Geese are famous for sounding the alarm. And I know here in the South, most people kept Chinese geese as guardian animals to let them know if somebody's coming out on the back 40. How do you deal with that? Are they far away from the house, or do you take advantage of that quality?
We keep the geese pretty close to the house because it's good to have geese by a hose. because they need so much water, and I don't have to carry the water all over the place. They're not very loud. They only get really excited when they see me come out of the house, because they know it's time. Or I'll bring them treats like vegetables or our compost from the kitchen. Pumpkins, they love pumpkins. They love all sorts of stuff. My geese aren't very loud though. I think Chinese and Africans are supposed to be really loud. So the only time I ever hear them is if there's someone driving up our driveway, or if maybe my son, he's 5, he goes by their pen. I keep them in a pen. So, my husband doesn't like them pooping on our sidewalk. So they'll only really get loud if they see something.
Okay. And what kind of products are you offering with your geese? Like, you're breeding them, and are you doing mostly breeding stock, or do you have a market for the meat or the eggs?
The eggs I mostly incubate. They only lay about 30 a year in the spring. The breeding season is very short. They'll start started in February last year. I'm in Maryland. So February, and all my babies were born by June. And so I got 30 eggs from each goose. And so I usually incubate them, or they're very delicious if you want to eat them. They're really great for baking. They're very rich. I didn't sell any except for hatching. But the meat is very delicious, like you said before. And you shouldn't be afraid of it because it doesn't dry out like you would think it would. It's very, my geese aren't very fatty, but it's really hard to dry out a goose. The skin gets so crispy. Otherwise, I sell about 10 birds a year for Christmas. And more than that, I have to hand pluck them all, and it's very tedious. So.
Ooh, I bet.
So that's more than that. I'm kind of out.
Yeah. And even with that fat, I'm married to a Frenchman, and goose fat is like liquid gold. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't waste a drop of it. And so, we collect it and put it in the freezer, and, we do all kinds of things from pâtés to a confit where you slow cook something in fat. We just find all creative ways to use the goose fat because it's so delicious. And what I can't get over is the viscosity of it. Like, I mean, they used to, I think, lubricate wagon wheels with this stuff, and I can see why. I mean, it's really thick and rich, and it's really an outstanding food product, So I always tell people, don't throw that away.
Oh, no, that's like a sin to throw away goose fat. You can use it in baking in place of butter, or shortening. Like you can make some delicious food with that. Or roasting potatoes. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's so crispy. I'm hungry.
Now, do you do anything with the feathers? Obviously, Goose Down. A lot of folks have used that in the past for insulation and coats and things. Have you ever played around with the down feathers?
Okay, so plucking the geese, I have kind of this weird way to do it, and I scald them and I wet scald them so the feathers are wet. And last year I tried to keep some, but I was just too tired. But this year I have a strategy, and I'm going to try to keep the down, and I'm going to try to keep that separate from the other feathers, because a lot of people don't know, but geese have kind of two different feathers. They'll have the real soft down that you'd put in a pillow, and then the other feathers. So I'm going to try to keep it this year because I don't like wasting, and I'll be processing 10 geese, so let's probably make a couple pillows.
Yeah. Can you tell me any downsides with the geese? You talked about, making sure you have a hose nearby. How much water do you need to keep a goose happy?
Well, so with all waterfowl, a lot of people think that they're really messy, and my husband's he's gonna tink me on this because I said I never wanted any kind of waterfowl. They're too icky. They dabble in all the muck. They're icky and dirty, and that's just not really true. They really don't need too much. I let them have a bath in a tub once a week, and then they're in the pasture. And as long as they have enough water to clean their face, they clean their eyes, they dunk their whole head in the water, then they're happy. So you can use like the 5-quart buckets are really nice if I have them real far away from our house. Otherwise, 5-gallon buckets are what really works because they can't get their whole body into it, and so they can't poop in their water. But I can keep filling up the 5-gallon buckets, and so they really don't need too much water. It just, if you don't like hauling water and you're not clever enough to figure out some water hauling, thing like me. So I try to keep them by a hose, and then I can change their water twice a day.
Yeah. And what about wintertime and summertime? Have you found them to tolerate your winters up in Maryland pretty well? And
yeah, so I'm from Wisconsin, and it gets pretty cold there. So here in Maryland, we're kind of spoiled with our moderate winters. The geese do really well. They'll still take baths in like frozen water. I'll break the ice and they'll jump in and take a bath, and then but they don't seem to get cold. As long as they have straw to bed down in at night and it's dry, as long as they're dry, they'll be fine. Now, if you live in Alaska, you might have a different way of doing it than I do.
yeah.
But otherwise, they do really well in the heat as long as they have water and shade. These are really neat because in the morning they come out and they graze, and then they take a bath, and then they take a nap, and then they do it all again. And it's really funny because they have a way of going about. They're also really easy to herd. So I have I don't know if you heard him bark. I have a little dog, and he herds them. And he helps me move them around because I move them in electric netting around my pastures, and he helps me move them around from place to place. And they flock up so nice. If you are into herding dogs and you want to practice, they're great. You give the dog a lot of confidence because they're a bigger, bitier bird.
Yeah, my husband, when we had geese, he used to do it the French way with a couple of sticks. And I used to tease him because he could literally zigzag them through parking cones, because we'd have to march them out from the barn out to the front yard. And it was very easy, and you just had those 2 sticks, and you just walk behind them, and if they go a little bit to the left, you put the stick over on the left and shake it a little bit, and you don't touch them or anything. And they were just so easy to move around. And you were talking about routine in the opening video. That was some footage I took over at Gerald Donnelly's place up in Canada last year. And it was the neatest thing. They had their routine. He opened the door. They would walk through one yard, go to the road, walk down the road, take a left, then take a right, go down the hill, and then they found their way to the river to take their morning bath. And then they'd come back to the pasture and do their day out there. But it was quite a sight to see all those geese, especially those massive Toulouse geese. I just love watching them. They're like almost prehistoric. That how can a bird get that big? They're wonderful. But.
And they're really clever. They can figure out. I think they have to be as smart as a human toddler. They can figure out puzzles. They can figure out gates, and they remember things. So if you have geese, or if you want to get geese, you always handle them nicely because they will remember. And they do remember people's faces. So if anyone's interested in getting geese, I think make sure everyone feeds them often, and so they get used to everybody in your family, and that way you don't have to have that poor childhood story of the goose chasing you.
Well, Brittany, do we have any questions coming in?
Oh man, we got lots of comments today, which is awesome. Let's see. Jody says honk honk. Honk Jody. Glad you're joining us today. Karen Doyle says, hi Ellie.
Oh, hi, Karen.
Thanks for joining us today, Karen. Shelly says she raises Sebastopols and she finds geese very challenging to hatch via incubation. She wants to know if you have any tips.
Geese are one of the few things that I actually have an excellent hatch record for, and I'm not sure why. I have a hard time with turkeys and chicks for some reason. The geese, I like to take them out and cool them for 5 minutes every day, and I mist them, and that seems to help them. And I lay them like flat instead of, some incubators that are like this. If you lay them flat and you rotate them, I guess a long way, it seems to do really well. It also might be maybe the fertility is not high, or you might need some new genetics. Sometimes there's genetic depression that you have to worry about if maybe your geese are inbred. They probably aren't, but it's something to think about.
Now, when you say cooling the eggs, you're opening up the incubator for how long?
You can get real scientific about it, and you you hold them up to your eye, and if they don't feel warm and they don't feel cold, you put them back in. Usually it's about 5 minutes. I'll take the tray out of the incubator and set it on top, and if I don't forget, I have to set a timer. One time I forgot them for a couple hours, and they all hatched.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very hardy because what the mom goose does is she'll get off the nest every day to go take a bath and to eat and take care of herself, and then she comes back to the nest and her feathers are wet, and so that's the theory behind cooling and misting. That's a waterfowl thing. If you have ducks, that works too.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Shelly. That's a great question. Mary says she's watching from Wisconsin. Thanks for joining us today, Mary.
That's my mom.
Oh, a shout out to Ellie's mom. That's amazing. Let's see. Karen says she loves her African geese. They keep the grass down better than the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
They do.
Testimonial for lawnmowers. Love it.
Yeah. When I worked for a vet clinic, the vet had a flock of African geese in the back 40. And so I would have lunch with those geese every day, and, talking about the ease of herding. At the time I had a little pug dog, and the pug had figured out the geese were afraid of her. And dang, if the pug dog wouldn't herd the entire flock of like 30 of them all around the field. She's like, woohoo, look what I can do. They never attacked her. I always heard Africans were mean, but they never tried to kill her. They certainly outweighed her, but Africans were fun.
I think maybe they were used to the dogs from the vet clinic too. I think if they're used to things, they're not usually so mean to them. People think geese are really mean and aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
but if they know the routine, they're good with it. If it's out of the routine, you might get a nip.
Yeah.
Jenny says, hi, Ellie, sending love from Wisconsin. You got your own fan club. I love it.
I had to get all my friends and famous.
It's true. Thanks for joining us today, Jenny. Jody says they want to get geese in the spring. Been researching breeds. Do you have any tips for picking the best breed?
Well, Jeanette says the buff are really friendly. I guess you would have to look at the size. There's some heavyweight geese like the Toulouse with the big. I love how they look with their big heavy bottom. If you just want a lightweight leader goose, you could look at the Cotton Patch, or the Romans are really great. I call it a hat. They have a little hat. It's actually a crest, but it's funnier if it's a hat. Others, I think all geese are great, and Karen likes her Africans.
Yeah, I think it's great if you can find a goose breeder in your area and, get animals locally. And, that might be a good starting point for you, is see what's locally available and go from there. With rare breeds, however, sometimes you have to travel a long distance if you want something specifically. And, so if there's a breed that you really, really want, keep in mind that it might not be in the next town over.
And I haven't tried it myself, but I've heard that hatching shipped eggs is not the best for geese. So if you want to get them, either get an adult pair or goslings.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jody. Janine says she loves goose dinners. Full
Who
testimonial.
doesn't?
Goose tastes delicious. So. Shelley said she never thought of pasturing her geese with sheep and goats is a good idea. So I'm glad we talked about that today.
Mm-hmm.
Just one note on that: the geese will bathe in the sheep's water trough. So you either have to. I rotate my geese after my sheep go through, so that they're not sharing the same water. I haven't figured out a way to keep the sheep's water clean. The geese don't care if it gets mucky, but the sheep do.
It's a good point.
Maybe someone's crafty and can figure out a way to do that. Automatic waterers, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you know a way, let us know. Karen says she's raised geese for Christmas before. They sold well in her market, but they are hard to clean. Do you have any tips for cleaning geese?
I think Karen's been raising geese longer than I have. She probably knows more tricks. She lives, she and I both raise Beltsvilles. She's just south of me in Virginia. No, they're terrible to pluck. It takes me about an hour for each one. And
I think that's part of the reason why they, they cost a lot to buy, because of the effort put into cleaning them, and especially a colored goose, white geese. If you miss a pin feather here and there, you're probably not going to, be bothered by it. But if you've got like dark feathers, kind of in like the Toulouse, or, Cotton Patch might have some dark feathers here and there. But yeah, I think that's part of the cost of goose, period. Is I have a question for you with fat. The one thing we noticed with the buff geese, and the one I think the biggest mistake we made was butchering time. And I learned afterwards that you really want to wait until it starts getting cold out before you butcher, so that they put on the fat. Do you find that to be the case with the Romans and the Cotton Patch too? Do you butcher late in the year to get the better fat content?
Yeah, they're just a slow growing breed. So I think they just take longer. They're not like some of the commercial birds out there. But yeah, my ganders have started putting on their little paunches, so it's almost time for them.
Yeah.
And this year I learned with my turkeys that the older birds are just as delicious to eat. We had we ate an older hen that we could not tell, and it was so fatty. And turkey fat is nothing like goose fat, but I saved it. It was delicious.
I'm sure it was.
You guys are making me hungry.
I know. It's about that time of day. Shelly says she's up in Canada, and her geese start laying in January and February, and they lay until June.
That's super. Did you say what kind you had?
I think she has African? No.
Sebastopols.
Oh, do they lay more eggs? I've only raised the Romans and the CP, so I don't get many eggs, I don't think. I think mine started in February.
Jeanette, what kind of geese do you raise?
Oh,
or are you going to start?
On the farm, we raised buff geese one season. Back in my zookeeping days, I raised all kinds of geese, from nene geese to all kinds of exotic stuff. And in the farmyard, we had pilgrim geese for many years, and they were real nice too. They're another one that's kind of low key, smallish, really easy keepers, and auto sexing. And the males and the females, you can tell apart, because the males are white, the females are brown and white. They were a lot of fun, and we had them in with cows. They did okay, the Dexters did all right with them.
Nice. Jody wants to know if you have to clip goose wings like ducks.
My geese do not fly. I think they're either too heavy or they don't have enough of a landing strip to like take off from. They'll get flapping and get like this far off the ground, but that's about it. So I can keep them in a 3-foot fence, and all but the really sassy ganders stay in.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know. Let's see. Karen says her Africans do well in winter and she never has to put them in a shelter in Southeast Virginia. And Shelley wrote in to say that a heated water bucket is immensely helpful in the winter.
I'm sure up in Canada, we got lucky last year, and I don't think I had to break too many water buckets in the winter.
That's no fun.
It's like when you bring them into your barn every night and then you put them out.
Vivian wants to know, what do you feed them during the winter laying season?
I feed them. So I'm lucky enough to live by an Amish feed mill, and they have a pigeon feed. Now, some of these geese breeders watching might shake their finger at me, but it's whole grains with a game bird pellet, and they do really well on it. And so I'll give them that to put on some weight before the breeding season starts. And otherwise, I'm very lucky to live by an organic food grocery store, and it's kind of fancy, and they put out their clippings, their like unwanted stuff every day, and I go and grab that and I feed that to my geese.
Oh, nice. That's helpful.
I also have some radishes and like cabbages and things growing in my garden right now that I'll clip and give to them too. I don't have a lot of grass growing right now. I have like summer kind of grass.
Sure. On that note, Karen also recommends cracked corn and not anything over 15%.
See, Karen, yeah, they shouldn't have a lot of protein, so they love cracked corn.
That sounds like a good treat. Let's see. Harry House says hi from Tennessee. Hi, Harry. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey.
Going back to the sheep, Vivian said geese will own the trough, so she elevates the sheep water on an inverted trough to keep it cleaner. So if you're looking for advice, that might help.
Yeah, I just use rubber buckets and it doesn't suck. I just keep them separate. Mm-hmm. If you're clever enough or fancy enough to have like automatic waterers, then you are smarter than me, and I know I'm not clever.
Once you get them, you never go back. When I was in New England, oh my God, that was just the best thing, the best investment we ever made. It was all the different farmyard barns all had automatic waterers, and it was just, they didn't freeze. They always had water. It was just
clean water.
Yeah, clean water.
And sheep are particular if it smells funny. They won't.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to scrub out buckets anymore. Yeah, I know. I'm envious.
Yep.
Let's see. We've got a few more questions. Shelley wants to know, how many ganders to geese in a breeding group would you recommend?
You can do like 1-to-1 works, or you can do, I think, 1-to-4. Probably not more than 4. They're also, I've I once did 2 ganders, and they don't fight too bad. They kind of figure out dominance. Not ideal, but it can work. It can. It may not always.
Thanks, Shelly. And let's see. Mary wants to know, are all eggs they lay for incubation, or do you ever eat them?
Oh yeah, I eat them. We had a few towards the end of the season when I was just kind of done incubating eggs. We'd eat them too. They're good for baking, Mom.
I was gonna say, do you have good recipes for, or how do you like to cook yours?
If you just fry them up in a pan, they tend to get rubbery. So they're really good scrambled if you add like a little bit of cream, because they have a real rich. The yolk's huge and it's rich, but not a very good chef. I'm one of the people that just sort of walks around and eats, and then I go out and do chores, and then I cook under obligation.
I bet you that they'd make an awesome creme brulee.
That sounds good.
Will you try it? Will you get some geese and try it? Will you make one for me?
Okay. If I end up getting geese next year, I certainly will. Yeah, my husband used to be a pastry chef, so he does all that stuff.
Oh, lucky. French pastry chef.
I think there was one more question. I'm trying to find it in here about if you handle goslings when they're little, will it make them aggressive?
I hand raise all our geese, and I find that they're more sociable. I'll take them out of the brooder and go work in my garden with them, and then they kind of treat me like I'm one of the flock. I haven't had aggressive geese though.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the breed, or maybe that's just my geese. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And last one. Lindsay, thanks for just joining in. This is being recorded. We'll share a link.
Well, gosh, Ellie, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to meet you in person over the weekend when we come to pick up the geese for our Goose Challenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, no pressure. Just got like the New York Times and Ariane on cooking them.
I bought a fancy tweezers to get all the down feathers out.
You're gonna have favorite geese.
Oh, well, wonderful. Well, thanks again. And Brittany, do we have any last minute housekeeping we do before we sign off?
Yes, thanks everyone for joining us today and asking such great questions and being so engaged. Big shout out to all of our members, just to say thank you for making programs like Goose Chats possible. We appreciate all you do. Shameless plug to, if you're not a member, please become one. It's that fall fundraising time of year, and today is Giving Tuesday. So if you would like to help us make these types of programs possible in the future, there will be a link to our website to give. But not just today, but any day. We appreciate all that everyone does to help make sure that rare breeds are here in the future.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of good work, so donate.
Thank you. We appreciate all you do, Ellie, for raising all of your heritage breeds, because you have more than just geese on your farm. You have sheep and
busy lady.
Hog Island sheep, and I just got Shetland sheep this spring. Some Beltsville turkeys I love, and my geese, and Saxony ducks I just got last year. And they're really
I love Saxonies. They're great.
They're big boys. They're mean ducks.
The Saxony ducks, they outlaid my chickens by yards. I mean, they just cranked out the eggs, and I'm like, what the, what are my chickens? Really?
I know, and their eggs are so delicious. That's why I'm thinking about getting rid of my chickens and just going with ducks. It's crazy, but they lay great.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks again, and look forward to meeting you this weekend. And thanks everybody for listening to us and opening your eyes up to the wide world of geese.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Bye. Have a
We
great
will.
afternoon.
Bye.